Hello everybody, my name is Joe and I am from Internet Dragons. Today we're going to be talking about Fluxx from Looney Labs and Playdek. Now, when you think of tabletop card games, I'm sure there's a lot that come to mind. For me, Fluxx wasn't one of them, I'll be perfectly honest. It is in fact a tabletop card game, but until receiving a copy of the iOS game, I honestly did not know it existed. That's actually something I'm a little ashamed to admit, because after playing around with the game for a few days, I can tell you that it is indeed quite fun. Fluxx is not a serious or deep game. In fact, it's pretty darn simple, silly, and fun. The concept is that it is ever-changing, hence the name Fluxx. What do I mean by ever-changing? Well, everything from the amount of cards you play to the win condition can and will change throughout the game. Now, it starts out rather simple. You begin with a hand size of 3, you draw a card, and you play a card. That is your typical order of events. Now, those cards that you play are broken down into 4 categories. The yellow bordered rules are exactly what they sound like, and once they're played, they persist throughout the game, or until something causes them to be replaced, like another rule, or destroyed. Now, they adjust everything from the number of cards you play in a turn, to how many cards you draw in a turn, or it can give you different play options. Some will allow you what they call a mystery play, where you get to draw a card and play it immediately from the top, from randomly from within the deck. There are some that let you cycle through, so you can trade a card out to draw more cards. There are ones that allow you to completely shift your entire hand and just get rid of it and dump it and draw a whole new one. Everyone playing the game is subject to the benefits and the detriments of the rules. So it's not just you're not just playing to keep you in mind, so every time you play a rule, you have to think of how that's going to affect everybody else that's playing, and whether it's going to be beneficial to you or not. Now, the second type of card is called keepers. Now, keepers are cards, or they're objects that you lay down, and they allow you to meet the win conditions. Basically, you match them up, and they come in certain pairs, and when you got the proper pair, you win the game. Now, these are all found objects. Chocolate, bread, sun, moon. They're just a weird combination of items. Now, you play those, and you keep those, and they have their own little area, and they can be destroyed by other players, stolen by other players. There are cards that let you use them as currency so that you can actually trade them in and draw more cards. And it's really important to kind of keep an eye on what keepers you have, see what's going on the table, and kind of go from there. Now, keepers are necessary because of the third type of card, which is called goal cards. Goal cards are pink bordered objectives, and that's exactly what they are. One can be active at a time unless a rule card says otherwise. There are rule cards that let you have multiple objectives out at a time, and this represents the win condition for the game. So as you generate keepers, when your keepers match whatever the goal is, well, then you win. And that's the entire point. Now, these can actually swap rapidly throughout the game, and every player can play one. Once a goal is played, it replaces whatever the current one is. If there's more than one rule on the table, you actually get to pick which one is destroyed. So you can theoretically have multiple win conditions active at any point in time. It's also important because you may be setting yourself up for a win only to have it snaked away from you at the last second. And you never know what's going to happen, so you could be holding on to one in your hand and then have your hand traded with another player, and all of a sudden you're no longer going to be able to win. So it's kind of fast-paced and interesting how that sort of works out. The last type of card are action cards, and they're outlined in blue. Now, when you play these cards, you have to take the action that it says immediately. This is important because it can help you or hurt you, and there is no passing your turn in this game. You can't just hold on and say, hey, I'm done, you go ahead. You have to play a card. Now, you can hold on to them, especially, but in kind of trying to avoid using them if they're hurtful, but some cards like play all or play all but one may actually force you to empty your hand, and you will have to follow the directions on that card. Now, some will be good, like they'll give you extra cards. There are certain ones that let you draw multiple cards and place them immediately. There are others that let you steal cards from another player. Some let you draw cards and pass them out and distribute them among the players in the group. And others, well, they make you do things you really don't want to, like destroy one of your keepers, or clear out goals, or empty the discard pile, or force everything into the deck and starting clean. There's all sorts of fun stuff that can happen with it, and you never know what's going to happen when an action card hits the table until it's already in play. So they're fairly straightforward, but again, just like goal swapping, they can throw a huge monkey wrench in your plans, and they're virtually impossible to plan for, which is part of the charm. Now, the interface for the tablet and phone for iOS here is solid, and the game makes really good use of the real estate. It's quite intuitive to move cards around the screen or to activate them. The animations are smooth, and the sound effects that go along with each of the cards, it's not very intrusive. It actually adds a nice level of ambience to your game. Games are actually fairly quick and can be completed in as quick as 5 minutes, depending on your luck with keepers and goals, or can go for upwards of half an hour. The real beauty of the game, though, is it doesn't require a whole lot of master planning in order to enjoy it. Now, it is a multiplayer game. It can be played by yourself and AI, but the multiplayer here is really fun, and I was really surprised by that. Even for just having it on the iPad, you can actually actively pass the iPad around with your friends while enjoying friendly banter. And I play with 3 of my friends in a 4-player game. And the interface is really slick. It hides your hand when you're done, and you pass it to the next player, and then they activate it, and they go on. So you can't see what the other player has, so you can't play, and you can't cheat. And that's something that I think a lot of card games fail when they take into consideration when making tablet-based or video game-based versions of themselves. And while I was able to play solo, I really, like I said, it was just this draw. I really wanted to play with other people. And being able to do that with this and have the iPad come out was very refreshing. And having it be such a smooth experience was phenomenal. And I wish more games actually would do that. Now, it's not just a game that you have to play physically in the real world. There is an internet component, and it does suit between one player, if yourself you want to play with against AIs and can have multiple AIs to play against, or can have 4 players total. This is slightly different than the actual card game itself, which can have 2 to 5 players, but 4 players really does maximize the space. That's about as much as you can cram in. And even then, 4 players, even on the online version, is really well done. It is very nicely implemented. I have noticed no lags, dropped games so far, and I've been playing a lot of the online game of it. I've been thoroughly impressed with the multiplayer implementation in this. And like I said, I wish more card games would look at how Fluxx has done this and take this into consideration for when they're doing their own. Now, I've said that this game is fun, and I can't stress that enough. It's quick, it is entertaining, it always makes me giggle, and it doesn't require a whole lot of deep thought. The implementation is smooth from everything from the interface, the graphics, the transitions and animations. The sound effects are solid. It's incredibly intuitive, and it doesn't really take you a whole lot of time to figure out what's going on. And I think, honestly, that's an important part, because a lot of the card games that are available for most mobile devices right now have a very steep learning curve, or require a ton of microtransactions, or deck building, and hours of time for you to pour into researching the perfect deck and combination, and then they have garbage multiplayer on top of it. Not the case here. Fluxx is fantastic, and for hours on end you can have fun with your friends, and just really get in there and just have a good time. It is currently available for the Apple iOS, only the Apple iOS right now. It is costing a mere $2.99, and if you have $3 floating around, I really recommend picking it up, especially if you like quick games, ones that are fun, ones that aren't going to take a whole lot of your brain power and cause you to have massive amounts of time devoted to it, and just that you would enjoy and have a great time with. So, if you liked what you saw here, make sure, and you're interested in more mobile games, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and be sure to visit us at internetdragons.tv and on Twitter at internetdragons. And until next time, well, thanks for watching.